What's up everybody, Mr. Mira here, and today we are back with another Java video. The few pieces of code we have seen and worked with so far have all followed the sequencing control structure, which means that execution happens from top to bottom, line by line. Our goal today is to actually look at another control structure, the selection control structure. The selection control structure happens when our code reaches a fork in the road, we could say, and then based on a condition check, it will go down different pathways. The condition check must be something that evaluates to true or false. So let's open up our project here and get started. So our project name, I believe today is Freaky Friday, I think. It is. So there is some code already on the screen right now. If you're going to follow along with this video typing out the code, I would suggest you pause here, get all the code typed out currently on the screen so that you can follow along, but you don't have to do that. You can just listen and we'll go from here. The most common type of selection control structure is an if statement. Now, an if statement is actually written out with the keyword if. So I'm going to scroll down at this point and I'm going to actually type our if statement right here. So we do the keyword if, and then we do an open and closing parentheses. And notice our keyword if changed to purple, meaning it's a keyword. That means we can't use it in any other case. Inside this parentheses is where we would write our condition check. So that goes inside the parentheses there. And then we also have an open curly brace and we hit enter and we get our closing curly brace as well. And inside these curly braces are where we place the code that we want to execute if our condition check is true. Now let's write our condition check here and we're going to test if the user has given us a number less than 5. So I'm going to write user num is less than 5. And that's something that can evaluate to true or false. Did the user give us a number less than 5? Yes, they did, or no, they didn't. True or false there. Inside here, I'm going to do a system.out.println and we're going to just say num less than 5, and we're going to go with a semicolon there. Now, if we run this code, we're going to run the code here and we're going to see what happens and how we get in that if statement. So if I put in the number 4, this condition check should be true, meaning I should see this print statement happen. So I hit enter and we do see that print statement happen. But notice after we ran our code, we continued on with the rest of our program. So we went down here and we did this print statement and now we're paused at this print statement right here, waiting for another user input. So just because the if statement happened doesn't mean that the program stops running. It still continues on in sequence after it has left the if statement. We can also list out alternate paths that happen when our condition check is false. So to do that, we're going to actually have to include what is known as an else statement attached to the if here. Now, an else statement needs to be attached to an if, meaning I'm going to go to where the closing curly brace of the if is, and I'm going to put an else. And then I do an open curly brace and a closing curly brace. There are no parentheses on an else because if something is not true, then it's false. So the else kind of just covers everything being false. So we're going to say system.out.println, and then we're going to say num greater than or equal to 5. And then we will run the code again and we'll see what happens if the user gives us a number like 7. So notice we got a different print statement. We got our number greater than or equal to 5, but we still continued on with the rest of the program because the sequencing still needs to happen. I can have multiple pathways here. I could even do another pathway. So let's actually do that before I get to the else. What if I wanted to test if the number equaled 5 exactly? So to do multiple pathways on one kind of continuous check there, I do something known as else if. And else if I need to actually have another condition check. So I'm going to check if user num is equal to 5. And then we're going to say, actually in here, we're going to, well, we'll just do a system.out.println. And then we'll say equals 5, and then we'll do our semicolon there. We'll bring back the else up here. If I can get it to go, there we go, on another line. And then this is just going to be greater than 5. Now I want to show off one more thing here. Let's say if the user gives us a number that's less than 5, we're going to print out number less than 5, but then we're going to say user num plus equals 4. So now the user num will become greater than 5. Now, the reason that I'm doing this is to show one final thing here. We will only go into one of these conditions. We will only ever go into the if, the else if, or the else. We will only ever go into one no matter what. And the one that we go into is whichever one is found to be true first. So if I put in the number 3 here and I hit enter, I'm going to go into user num less than 5. That's a true statement there. I'm going to add 4 to user num and make it 7. However, I'm not going to then jump into the else statement and say num greater than 5. I'm not going to see that print statement because I already went into the if. I will only ever go into 1. So I'm going to hit enter here, and now I see num less than 5, and I see my number is 7, meaning I just jumped after seeing this print statement, doing the 7 with the addition here. I jumped down here because my if was kind of over there, and I'm going to get to enter another num down there. Now, but this video is called Curious Switch, and we haven't mentioned that word yet. Well, another type of selection control structure is known as a switch statement. It is a little different than an if statement, but still goes down different paths based on what we call a controlling expression this time. So to do a switch statement, I actually type out the keyword switch, and then inside parentheses, instead of a condition check that evaluates to true and false, I put in a controlling expression. So my controlling expression is going to be the user num, and then I have my open and closing curly braces where I can type some code in between. However, inside these curly braces, we put different cases by using a keyword case, and then I'm going to say like case 5, and I'm going to print out system.out.println, and we'll say num is 5, and then I'm going to do a keyword break, and we'll talk about what that keyword break means in a moment here. And then I could do case 6, right? And I'm going to type out some other cases. It'll get sped up here, and we'll come back and we'll finish off this video. So I finished off my switch statement. Let's scroll back up for a quick second. Oh, need a semicolon there. I commented out the if statement and the top part here just so we're not asked a bunch of questions that we're not going to go into. I want to focus on the switch. But because I commented out these first 2 lines that initialized and declared the user num up here as an int, I needed to add an int to the user num line down here on 22 right now. Just keep that in mind if you're going to comment things out to kind of match what I'm doing here. But we have some other cases inside here. We have a case for 5, a case for 6, a case for 7, and then a default case. So what happens here is when I run this, whichever case matches my controlling expression, I go inside that case. If no case matches, then I go inside the default. If a case has a break statement in it, that means that when it hits that break statement, I am going to leave the switch statement and then continue on with the rest of the code. If I don't have a break statement, notice I purposely left out a break statement here in case 6, what happens is that we actually fall through to other cases, and that's not always a good thing. So let's watch what happens here. And we're going to do 5 as our first example. We're going to say 5, and we see we went into the case for num is 5. Now, if I were to rerun this and we're going to say 6 now, I'm going to see num is 6, but then I'm also going to see num is 7. And that's why it's not good to miss a break statement after a case is ended. So I'm going to see num is 6, num is 7, and then I have left. So because there's no break here, right, because I missed the break, I fell through to the next case. I keep falling through cases until I hit a break. So I want to make sure that I have that. And then if I were to do like num is 2, we're going to go into the default and it's going to tell us num is something. And just like with a if statement, once the switch has ended, we continue on with the rest of our code. And that's kind of a selection control structure overview. We have different pathways that we can go on, different cases that we can go on based on either a controlling expression or based on a condition check that must evaluate the true or false. So selection control structures allow us to do a little more with our code depending on results that we're getting here. In the next video, we're going to actually look at our last control structure. Until then though, everybody have a week.